Hello my friends and welcome to the second part of this video on RLHF. So in the first part we discussed why RLHF is needed to align these LLM models with human values. But as human values is very subjective topic, we discussed how OpenAI defines them in one of their research papers. Then we understood the basics of reinforcement learning with a simple example. Later on, we introduced RLHF by introducing LLMs in our discussion. But soon we ended our video after introducing reward models in RLHF. So in this part of this video, we would be discussing more on reward models, that is, how we can obtain feedbacks from humans in different ways in order to train these reward models. Now once these reward models are trained, we'll also discuss how we can use them in order to fine-tune these LLM models to achieve our final goal. Let us start from the slide that we have left off in the last part. But if you haven't watched the first part, I would highly recommend you to watch that part first before continuing here. Now whenever you see reward model, think of it as a replacement for humans that assign these reward values to the responses of LLMs. But before we use them, we should train them by humans itself. In order to train them, we must follow step-by-step procedure. First and foremost thing is we must select the criteria for which we need to judge the LLM responses and align the model. For instance, we have selected harmlessness. Then we must select the prompt sample that we will use in the category of the selected criteria. For instance, for harmlessness, we can have prompts like how can I make a bomb or how can I hack my neighbor's Wi-Fi. Now such prompts are then passed to the LLM model in order to generate completion or responses. Now because of the randomness factor of these models, it can generate multiple responses for each of the prompts. For example, here we have generated 3 responses for each of the prompts, which is A, B and C. Once we have the completions for each of the prompts, we introduce the humans in the loop. These humans then provide a rating value for each of the answers generated. But before rating their answers, they are provided with a sample instruction sheet which could contain instructions like how should they rate these answers based on the selected criteria, or if they could use the internet for the fact check. Once each of the human is thorough with the sample instructions, they can rate these answers based on their preferences. For example, some human can prefer answer A over the other 2 answers, while other human can prefer answer C over the other answers. But at the end, we have a consensus between all the humans and we arrive at the common preferences for all the answers. Now, once we have these ratings for each of the completions for all the selected prompt samples, then this data is transformed so that it could be used as an input data for reward model. So what we do is we transform this data into a binary class table where each of the responses is classified under preferred or not preferred answers. When we consider answer B and C, B is the answer which will be not preferred and C will be the answer which will be preferred. But when we compare answer A and C, C will be classified into not preferred class as compared to A, because A is the class which has got the most preferred rating than the other 2 classes. In this way, when the data is transformed, we add the prompt to each of the classified data, which is then used as an input for reward model. Once this input data is passed to the reward model, at the output we get reward values for both of the classes. So we get a set of reward values for the preferred class and another set of reward values for the not preferred class. And these set of values are generated for whole of the prompts that we have selected. And our aim is to maximize the reward for the preferred class and minimize the reward for the not preferred class. To do that mathematically, a loss function is used, which is minus of log of sigmoid of the difference between the reward values between the preferred and the not preferred class. If you're not aware of the sigmoid function, it looks something like this. So for the higher input values, it will get to the maximum value of 1, while for the lower input values, it will get to the minimum value of 0. Now, when we try to minimize this loss, we have to maximize the value inside the log because of the negative sign. So in order to do that, we have to maximize the difference between the reward values. That is, the reward value for the preferred answer should be as high as possible, and the reward value for the not preferred answer should be as low as possible. And in that way, we train our reward model, which could be then used as the counterpart of humans. Now we have a basic idea of how these reward models are trained. Once we have a trained reward model, we can then use them in the loop to fine-tune our LLM model to finally align them with human values. Let us see how this is done. So we have a prompt which is then passed to the LLM model. The LLM model generates a response which is then passed to the trained reward model. The trained reward model assigns some reward value based on what data it has already looked upon. These reward values are then passed to an RL algorithm which, based on these values, changes the weight parameters of the trained LLM model such that it could generate responses to get higher reward values. Further, with the updated weight parameters, the LLM model generates new responses which is then passed to the reward model to assign a new reward value to the response. Now, if the reward values go higher, then RL algorithm knows that it is going in the right direction of updating the weight parameters. And this iteration is continued until the reward model generates the maximum possible reward value for the responses. For example, let us consider if I ask the LLM model, how can I make someone angry? And let's say the LLM generates, just beat them up. Now, we humans know that this is not aligned to our human values. But let's see what reward model generates. So it assigns a negative reward value to the answer. And RL algorithm, seeing the negative reward values, tries to manipulate the weight parameters of the LLM model such that it generates new responses. So now it generates, it is not advisable to make someone angry. Now it is much better answer than the previous answer. And now let's see. So the reward model is assigning a higher reward value. So RL algorithm knows that it is going in the right direction. And hence, by doing the same for each of the answers and iterating the weight parameters, we get the final human aligned LLM model. Now, just for your knowledge, the most popular RL algorithm that is used in fine-tuning the LLM model is PPO, or Proximal Policy Optimization. Now, if you want to know more about this, I'll provide the link to this paper in the description of the video below. Great. So now you have a decent idea about RLHF and how is it used as an additional step after training the large language models by these companies. Now, although RLHF is one of the most popular technique which is being used right now, there are other techniques which are coming up as an alternate to RLHF, and I want you to research and find out what are those techniques and write them in the comment sections below. I would like to end this video here with a short summary. So in the beginning we discussed why do we need RLHF at the first place. Then we discussed the basics of reinforcement learning and shifted our focus to RLHF. Later on, we introduced reward model and understood their importance in replacing humans from the loop. Further, we understood how we can train these reward models by simply using the preference rating from humans and minimizing the given loss function for the reward values. Once we trained these reward models, we saw how we can use them to fine-tune these LLMs to achieve our final goal. At the end, I also gave a task for you, where you need to research on the internet and see what are the new ways alternate to RLHF that companies are coming up to realize the same goals. And if you find out any such ways, then you can write them in the comment section below to keep us updated. Thank you for watching.